Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Planning Committee meeting. My name is Councillor David Connor, and I am Chairman of the Planning Committee here at Fenland. Welcome also to those members of the press and the public who are joining via the live stream. Before we begin, please can I take this opportunity to remind everyone to turn mobiles and computers to silent and ensure when using the microphones the red light is on and turned off when you finish speaking. So now, without further ado, we'll go to agenda item number 1, and I'd like to ask member services, and it's Elaine in this case, if we have any apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from Councillors Gerstner, Marks, Senate-Clough, and Councillor Purser is substituting for Councillor Senate-Clough.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2 is to confirm and sign the minutes from the meeting of the 11th of June. Can I just have a show of hands? Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Purser. We'll have a show of hands on that, please. That's unanimous, thank you. And also, could I propose to propose the minutes of June the 25th? Councillor French, are you proposing again? That's the second one, yeah, thanks. Who's going to second it? Councillor Purser, once again. Thank you. Just a right show of hands, for that. Thank you. So now we'll go to agenda item number 3, which is urgent items. There are none, however, agenda item number 8 has been withdrawn. Agenda item number 4 is declarations of interest. Member service will now go to each councillor in turn, and can you please state if you've anything to declare in relation to any agenda item today. So over to you again, Elaine, thank you.
Councillor Benny.
Thank you, Elaine. Quite easy today. I'm a member of Chatteris Town Council, but I take no part in any planning discussions. We usually leave the room when it is, and the one Chatteris item that's on here today, I've had no part of the discussion or voting on.
Councillor Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Just one today. I know Ruth Houghton, one of the speakers today. I know her as she is the Dodington Parish Council Chair, who I represent a district council on at this council, but always will be keeping an open mind on the application. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs French.
None.
Councillor Meekings.
Yeah, I'm a member of Wisbech Town Council. Until fairly recently, I was on Wisbech Town Council Planning Committee, at which we discussed and voted on what is item 5 on the agenda today. And when that item comes up, I will withdraw from taking any part in.
Councillor Purser.
That's gone wrong. Nothing to declare on this particular occasion.
Okay, we'll continue, Elaine. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So we now go to the main part of the meeting. Members should only make a proposal on a plan application when invited to do so. However, I will initially asking if anybody is going to propose the officer's recommendation. Clearly, if no proposal is forthcoming, or if that proposal fails, I'll be looking for an alternative proposal. Members are reminded that any such proposal should be accompanied by the policy planning reasons for go against officer recommendations. Of course, you all know that. So now, without further ado, I'll hand over to Richard Fitzjohn. He's the Development Officer here at Fenland to present application F/YR24/0857F, agenda item number 5. So over to you, Richard, when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 564, planning permission for the erection of a new three-storey secondary school and associated works within the grounds of the existing Thomas Clarkson Academy Secondary School in Wisbech. The proposed secondary school would be a separate school to the Thomas Clarkson Academy. However, it would operate under the same academy trust. The application states that the proposed school would have the capacity for up to 600 pupils aged 11 to 16 years and approximately 50 to 70 full-time equivalent staff. The applicant is the Department for Education, and the application is before the Planning Committee due to the Wisbech Town Council views being contrary to the officer recommendation. Andrew Connolly from Cambridge County Council Transport Assessment Team is available via an audio link today if members have any transport related questions they wish to ask him in relation to this item. The application site is outlined in red on the attached plan and aerial photograph. The application site includes the Thomas Clarkson Academy main car park, which is the larger car park in the northern area of the application site, and its access adjoining Corporation Road to the east. The Thomas Clarkson Academy bus drop-off car park, which is the smaller car park in the southern area of the application site, and its access adjoining Weasenham Lane to the south. The multi-use games area and playing field land to the southwestern area of the application site, and small areas of landscaped amenity space. The application site is located within an urban area of Wisbech, surrounded by built form comprised of a mix of uses. The immediate surrounding area contains the Thomas Clarkson school buildings and associated facilities to the north and west of the application site, residential properties to the south and east of the application site, and commercial properties to the south and west of the application site. The proposed school building would comprise a three-storey building with a flat roof, circa 15.3 metres in height, and an elongated form in a north to south orientation. The principal elevation of the proposed school building would face eastward, and the rear elevation of the proposed building would face westward, with these elevations containing the majority of the glazing serving the proposed school building. The roof of the proposed school building would contain a large photovoltaic solar array and plant equipment. The proposed building would be immediately surrounded by amenity landscaping and includes areas for social space, cycle storage, and a horticultural area. The proposed development includes improvements to the existing sports court and playing field to the west of the proposed school building, in addition to external canopies containing renewable energy generation infrastructure. The proposed development would retain the majority of existing boundary treatments and erect additional boundary treatments. The proposed development includes alterations to the existing car park layout of the Thomas Clarkson Academy, including the creation of a vehicular connection between the existing bus drop-off car park, access from the south, and the main car park access from the east, which are currently segregated in terms of vehicular access. This slide shows elevations of the proposed school building. This slide shows the roof plan of the proposed school building, including the proposed solar panels. The Fenland Infrastructure Delivery Plan identifies a critical need for a new secondary school provision within the Wisbech and March area due to demographic pressures on secondary schools. The proposed development will provide a new secondary school with capacity for up to 600 pupils within one of the district's most sustainable settlements, which would contribute towards addressing the identified need for additional secondary school capacity in the locality. The local highway authority has no objection to the application, subject to a financial contribution of £150,000 towards Cambridgeshire's local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, to provide pedestrian and cycle improvements along Weasenham Lane, and a condition requiring a school travel plan to be agreed with the LPA to promote sustainable travel. The applicant has agreed to pay the requested financial contribution and has submitted a draft Section 106 agreement which would secure this. And the officer recommendation includes a condition to secure the requested school travel plan. These photos show views towards the location of the proposed school building from Weasenham Lane. These photos show the existing bus drop-off access to Thomas Clarkson Academy to the north of Weasenham Lane, which would become the main access to the proposed school and also provide access to the Thomas Clarkson Academy for school buses. The Thomas Clarkson Academy school buildings are also visible in the background. These photos show views of the existing bus drop-off car park. And these photos show some of the closest commercial and residential properties to the proposed school along Weasenham Lane. In conclusion, the application is before the Planning Committee as Wisbech Town Council objects to the application due to the reasons relating to overdevelopment of the site and the impacts on residential amenity of nearby residents during construction and operation of the proposed school. There are no outstanding objections to the application from any other consultees, and no representations have been received from any nearby residential or commercial properties. The Fenland Infrastructure Delivery Plan identifies critical need for secondary school provision within Wisbech March area due to demographic pressures on the secondary schools. The proposed development would provide a new secondary school which would contribute towards addressing the identified critical need. The applicant has provided a draft Section 106 agreement to secure the contribution requested from the local highway authority, and the proposed development would broadly accord with the development plan in respect of the principle of development, its impacts in relation to flood risk and drainage, highway safety, transportation and parking provision, sports facilities provision, character and appearance of the area, residential amenity, resource use, biodiversity and trees, and biodiversity net gain. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to conditions and a legal agreement as set out within the committee report. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Richard. We have one set of speakers on this application. I'd now like to invite Oliver Corbett, he's the agent, and Richard Scott, he's the head teacher, to make their presentation to the committee. You have got 5 minutes between you. Thank you. Start obviously when you're ready. Thanks.
Chair, councillors, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name's Richard Scott and I'm the Executive Principal of the new Wisbech Academy. I'm here today to speak not to the technical aspects of the application, but the opportunity to represent the young people of Wisbech. The new school is a response to a clear and growing need. We've already received 200 applicants for our second intake of the Wisbech Academy, and our neighbouring school has received 400. It tells us something important, that the families of Wisbech are seeking high quality education for their children. The new Wisbech Academy will be a distinct school with a strong focus on science, technology, engineering and maths, and a smaller, more personalised environment. A state-of-the-art permanent building would be ideal in supporting such a curriculum. Also, it would not be isolated. Its location next to Thomas Clarkson Academy allows for meaningful collaboration, something which is already underway, and it will bring shared benefits from curriculum support to economies of scale. The campus with its wide range of sports facilities will also be available to the wider community. We're proud that Thomas Clarkson achieved 2 consecutive good Ofsted ratings, the first in its history, and this success gives us the confidence that as part of Brookweston Trust, the same academy chain, the new school will be in strong hands with a leadership team that understands the local context and is committed to continuous improvement. Many of our young people face significant challenges, and the demographic of the school represents some of the poorest youngsters, in fact, in Cambridgeshire and in Eastern England more generally. The school will offer them not just a place to learn, but a place to belong, to be supported and to thrive. It will open doors to opportunities that might otherwise remain closed. Importantly, the school also offers a broad and enriching curriculum with access to high quality facilities and extracurricular activities that will help to build confidence, ambition and a sense of purpose with these young people. We want every student to feel that their aspirations are valid and achievable, and that they are part of a school community that believes in their potential. We do also recognise the concerns raised about traffic and congestion. A robust travel plan will be in place from the outset and reviewed annually. We are committed to being good neighbours and to working with the community to ensure the school's presence is a positive one. Above all, we see this as a chance to invest in the future of Wisbech, its young people, its families and its wider community. We hope you will see the value of this vision, and thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Richard. And I'm Oliver Corbett, I'm the planning agent for this application. I don't want to repeat the detailed and thorough report that Richard's put together on the application, and we thank him for his work. We've talked...
Sorry, I just got to stop you there, Mr. Scott. So, just for the benefit of the YouTube, would you kindly start your presentation again as Mr. Scott had his light on and that... If you just start your presentation again and you allowed it on, thanks. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for that. So I don't want to repeat what Richard said in his speech and in his thorough report. And we've talked there about the identified need for school places in the district. There is significant interest in places at the school, and as just a piece of wider context, there are temporary accommodation at the Thomas Clarkson Academy for some pupils on roll with the Wisbech Academy currently, and there'll be a further temporary building on site later this year to accommodate those pupils. I also just wanted to highlight some of the positive discussions we've had through the course of the application, resolving matters raised by the Internal Drainage Board, the local flood authority, Cambridge County Council Highways and Fenland's Ecology Officer to result in the positive recommendation that's in front of you all. And that through the course of the application, all of the matters have been addressed or will be dealt with by planning conditions. Just in respect to the Town Council objection, again, we're aware that these projects do cause disruption for residents, and our contractors, Henry Brothers, who will deliver the school, are going to work closely in accordance with the construction management plan to try and avoid any detrimental impacts. And we do have somebody from Henry Brothers available if there are any questions from members. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, members. Questions for Mr. Corbett or Mr. Scott? Councillor French.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, I didn't hear you mention anything about SEND special education needs. Originally in 2017, when a new school was planned, it was going to have provisions for SEND pupils. Are you going to have any SENDs in there?
Yeah, we will have. In fact, the number of children with EHCP plans that have grown across the campus, but also within Thomas Clarkson Academy, we've now got around 80 children with EHCP needs, and that's had a significant impact actually in what we're trying to do on Thomas Clarkson and the needs across into the new school as well. And absolutely, we've already appointed a Senko, and we have every expectation that we will be supporting EHCP students within the context of the new school. And I think this is where the campus collaboration will come in as well, because what we'll be able to do is, with the youngsters, there's opportunities for a best suit for school for some students and other students. With a 1400 school and a 600 school, it'll enable us to actually offer a more bespoke setting for the youngsters. And yes, we're a very inclusionary school. It's very much part of what we're doing.
Thank you. If I can now ask, concerns of middle level, I sit on this drainage board. There are slight encroachments onto the board. What are you going to discuss with, I think it's Wisbech and 100 drainage board?
Yep. So we've had quite a number of meetings with the board over a number of months, and essentially we've dealt with some of their objections and their comments, and they've formally withdrawn their objection to the planning application. Part of what we need to do is ensure access to their facilities and assets, and that is achieved through the planning application. There is a separate consenting process with the drainage board that will be carried out, and as part of that there may be some works to widen accesses and enable future vehicles sort of large size vehicles and operational requirements to be dealt with. So yeah, they've withdrawn their objection to the planning application.
Finished, Councillor French? At the moment. Right, anybody else at all? Councillor Purser, thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Questions for Mr. Corbett, actually. We know that obviously with schools taking quite some time to, or any buildings of that sort of nature taking quite some time to construct, and it's quite a busy road out there. And with the weather having been what it's been like with flooding, what have you got any provision of having wheel cleaners and that sort of thing for vehicles coming on and off the site to make sure the roads are nice and clean around that area?
Yep, so as part of the construction management plan, of which a draft version was submitted with the application, and another one is going to be subject to condition, things like wheel washing, dust mitigation, water spraying will all be considered and agreed with officers as part of that process.
Very good. Anybody else at all? No. No, thank you, gentlemen. Right, members' questions to officers. Councillor French.
Thank you. In your report, it says that it broadly accords to the plans. What do you mean broadly accords? It either does or it doesn't.
I think with any planning application, especially of a major scale, there's always elements of certain criteria and certain policies of a local plan that it might not specifically comply with. But you have to look at the development plan as a whole, and that's why I would always say my wording in the report would always be that it broadly accords with the development plan for that reason, because there's so much, policy LP16, for instance, has so much criteria. It's very, very rare that you'd get any proposal that would accord with every specific criteria of that, every policy.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Thank you, Councillor French. Anybody else got any more questions to officers? No, no burning desire. Thank you very much. Members, I'd now like to invite you to debate the item in respect of the material considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand, please. So we're in debate. Councillor French, once again, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, certainly we need a new secondary school, and I'm pleased to see that there are going to be SEND places. Some of you may or may not remember there was going to be a special education school for March, and unfortunately County Council withdrew that last year. So I welcome this. Do you know when it's going to actually, if it's approved, when it's going to actually start?
My understanding of the sort of opening date for the school would be that they would sort of aiming to open it for September next year. But Mr. Scott, I don't know, may wish to sort of provide an update on that, if you'd like.
That's good then, that's clarified that. Anybody else at all? No? Still in debate? No? No one wants to add to it? Short debate, but relevant. Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Benny, just right.
Thank you, Chairman. Surprised to see this here. Councillors usually want to see schools. We campaign for them and we argue for things that better the community, and this certainly will. Why we had an objection from Wisbech Town Council is beyond me. I think this is something that we need. Wisbech is a growing town, and it certainly needs schools. Children all need education, and this one sells itself, Mr. Chairman. It's something that is needed for the area.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely. Okay. Anyone else at all? No. Councillor French.
Sorry. Was there a biodiversity net gain submitted with this application?
There's a biodiversity net gain assessment submitted with the application, and there is a condition recommended for details of biodiversity net gain to be agreed.
Yeah, I think it ticks all the boxes. I don't think it's missed anything else off. We just need a robust construction management plan And I'm like Councillor Venny, I can't understand why anyone would go against something that is so much needed. As like Councillor French says, the one at March has been put on hold or scrapped by County Council, and we need obviously places to go for our SEND children. So it's a yes from me, but anyone else at all before I close the debate? I've closed it. Member, got anything to say? No. I have a proposer to go with officer's recommendation to grant. Councillor French is proposing it. Who wants to second it? Councillor Purser. So we've got a proposal to go with officer recommendation proposed by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Purser. Can I have a show of hands on that? That application has been approved. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Alan Davis, Principal Planning Officer here at Fenland, to present application F/YR23/1033F, agenda item number 6. So I think you can start when you're ready, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. Item 6 is land south of 88 West Street, Chatteris, and it's for 21 dwellings, all 2-storey, 4 2-bed, 15 3-bed, and 2 4-bed. The application is by Urban Developments Peterborough Limited, and the agent who's here today to speak on behalf of the application is Kate Wood. The reason for the application being presented to committee is because there's a number of representations contrary to officer recommendation. In total, there was 11 objections to the application and also a petition against the proposal. On the screen above, you can see the location plan on the left-hand side. The site is outlined in red. Note the long, narrow band running northwards from the site. That's West Street, an existing road which will provide access to the site. On the right-hand side is the aerial photo, again with the site outlined in red. The application site is located on the western side of West Street, adjacent to the market town of Chatteris. The rear of the properties on Fairview Avenue, which are to the east, to the right-hand side on the screen, are located on the opposite side of the road. And as said, the site is accessed via a byway that links West Street and Blackmill Road. The access road is currently narrow and partially unmade. The site currently consists of 3 commercial type buildings constructed of blockwork, and in front of these buildings there's a large gravel and concrete hard standing area. This slide shows the proposed site layout. As you can see, on the eastern side is West Street, where there are proposed amendments to the existing roadway to access site. In effect, the layout of the site will be 2 cul-de-sacs, with the northern section of the site providing one cul-de-sac, and then to the south of the site, near the existing byway, which will be amended, is the second part. On the western side of the site, you've got proposed attenuation pond to deal with drainage and some open space. The west of the site will be landscaped, and there's also a 2-metre wide footpath to the west of the attenuation pond. The site layout demonstrates a mix of house types, and as I said, there's a mixture of semi-detached and detached houses proposed. The application is effectively a resubmission of an application that was submitted in 2022. It was refused for one reason only. It was refused on the basis that the access was unsuitable due to the narrow width of the existing byway to the south. In January of this year, a definitive map order was served to amend the width of that byway, which has now addressed the previous reason for refusal in the 2022 refused application. As you can see from the screen, the layout on the left-hand side, that was the refused layout from the 2022 application. The layout on the right is the latest application. There are some minor amendments to the scheme, namely there's one less dwelling in the north east of the site, so on the top right hand side of the screen, as you can see, left hand plan shows 3 dwellings, right hand shows 2, and then in the southeast of the site there was a terrace, set of 3 terraces. They've since been replaced with a pair of semi-detached and a detached dwelling, but apart from that there are very little other changes to the proposal. The plans shown above are an example of house type A. House type A is a 4-bedroom detached 2-storey dwelling with detached garage. You'll notice there's a similarity in terms of design and architectural style from the house types. These have been designed to sit comfortably with the surrounding development to the north and east of the site, all very similar styles of development. There is a variety in the street scene, but they're all sort of latter 20th century designs. House type B, again, similar type design with the flat roof porch, and this is a 3-bed house type. House type C, another 3-bed dwellings, as you can see, it's another semi-detached, and again picks up similar design cues with the flat roof porch at the front of the dwelling. House type D is, there's one on the whole site. This is for plot 21. This is one of the changes made from the previously refused application. This is a 3-bed, quite a small detached, but 3-bed detached. And then finally, on the final house type plan, you have house type E. These are the 2-bed semi-detached plots. And again, you can see the similarities across the site. The plan on screen now shows the site sections. Purpose of showing this A is to give you an idea of how the site will look post-development, but also to clarify queries to do with land levels and flood risk. The site lies predominantly within flood zone 1, meaning it's at low risk of flooding, whereas the western boundary of the site lies within flood zones 2 and 3. In order to address the flood risk, it is proposed to increase the height of the developed part of the site by approximately 1 metre, and that's what the site sections show. By doing so, there won't be a detrimental impact upon existing dwellings to the east in terms of overlooking or overbearing impact, and both the LFA and the Drainage Board have been consulted on these proposals and have not raised any concerns or objections on drainage. The above plan shows street scenes and again gives you an idea of the character of the development, and as the layout plans had shown, the landscaping is predominantly in the west of the site, with the dwellings arranged around cul-de-sacs, and will have a view, an appearance as shown above. Just to give you some context of the existing site, the 4 photos on the screen running from top left-hand corner. That's an image looking north adjacent to 84A West Street. Image 2, right-hand corner, is looking south adjacent to 88 West Street. Image 3 is looking north toward 88 West Street. And then image 4 is a view of the existing business on site, which is operated from the 3 existing commercial sheds. Just some more images from site. So image 5 is looking east towards Fairview Avenue. Image 6 is looking across the site in the southwest direction. Image 7, bottom left hand corner, is the view from the southeast corner of the site looking back up towards the site itself. And image 8 is view north to show buildings and existing Fairview Avenue rear boundaries, which will obviously then be fronting onto the amended access road to the development. So, in conclusion, previous refusal reason concerned the width of the right-of-way has now been satisfied, and is not considered to be a material character or amenity impact from the proposed layout and design of the site in the context of the previous decision. The retained legal width the realigned legal width of the public right of way was confirmed with a definitive map modification order on 20th of January this year. There are no significant issues in relation to flood risk, drainage for the development site, or ecology, subject to proposed suitable conditions. Part of the site is in flood zone 2 and 3, yet the majority of the built form, excluding parts of the turning areas and car parking for some plots, are within flood zone 1. It is not considered that this would expose the future residents to unacceptable flood risk, and on balance would be acceptable despite the failure of the application to adequately address the sequential exception tests. There are not considered to be any further technical or other issues which cannot be addressed either via a condition or within the Section 106. The applicant has agreed to the Section 106 obligations, and we have that in writing in an email from June confirming that those Section 106 obligations towards education are acceptable. The scheme is therefore recommended for approval, subject to satisfactory Section 106. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. We have one speaker on this application, and I'd now like to invite Kate Wood. She's the agent to make her presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman, members. I'm the agent for the planning application for this development, which is 21 houses on this partly brownfield site immediately adjacent to the edge of the town of Chatteris. The proposed development will facilitate the removal and remediation of the noisy engineering company on site, which will now be able to move to a larger and more modern facility elsewhere in Chatteris. But the main positive impact of the development will be the improvement of the road at West Street, all the way from where it starts to be an unmade track further up the street. The road improvement will benefit neighbouring dwellings that are effectively accessing their properties off a track at the moment, as well as providing a safer length of access for the many dog walkers using this route towards the Pocket Park, which is further south. You may recall that the similar application on this site was supported in principle by this committee back in 2022, but at that time we had not resolved the upgrade of the byway through the definitive map modification process with the Highway Authority, and you therefore refused the application for that reason alone. Since then, we've worked through that process with the Public Rights of Way team at the County Council, and the byway has now been formalised in its width through their processes, and that has allowed us to reapply for this application. In fact, the process resulted in the width of the byway being defined as wider than assumed at the northern end of the application site. And this has required us to lose one dwelling from the scheme so that we can move the frontage dwellings back off the definitive right of way. And while the access itself will be created as a normal estate road, you'll see that the hatched area will fall into the front gardens of the first 2 properties, and the Highway Authority requires us to provide highway markers through their gardens, the sort of little concrete markers, and that sort of makes it very clear which is highway or byway and which is private land, so that's all kept very clear. But as I say, we've had to lose the property to make that work. So you can therefore be confident to approve the application in the knowledge that a proper access can be provided now. A further benefit of the application is that it provides public open space, which will result in a more attractive and pleasant walking route through the development itself, as well as ecological enhancements. Whilst you will see from paragraph 1060 of your report that the timing of the application was such that biodiversity net gain is not required, we did undertake a biodiversity assessment last year, which concluded that there would be a gain in area habitat of 28% and an absolute gain in linear habitat from the baseline of 0. So the scheme therefore more than meets the 10% gain that's normally required. The proposed development will also result in the provision of much needed affordable housing, providing further choice in the area for those seeking homes through affordable routes. All other technical matters, as has been said, have been resolved, such as flood risk, drainage, residential amenity impact. And I hope you'll now be able to approve this application as per the recommendation. Thank you, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Yep, thank you very much. Members, questions? And if nobody starts, I've got three, but Councillor French first and I'll come in. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. You've got public open space. Are you going to have any play equipment on the public open space?
Through you, Chairman, no. It's not the size of a site that would require play equipment on it.
You're going to have 21 homes. You're probably going to have about 50, 60 children. I think you should really reconsider having some kind of play equipment. But my next question is, with regard to the drainage board, tell me who's going to actually maintain after the buildings are up, because it does say actually in here it does need it's not considered to be sufficient all through the agent's technical response. So what are you going to do with regard to the drainage board?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what that question means. Obviously there's a drainage strategy that's submitted with the application, which sets out how drainage will be managed on the site, and any runoff into the IDB system has been assessed by the IDB. There's a separate, as was with the previous application actually, there's a separate process for a discharge application to the IDB drain. So obviously that's the ultimate way that water will come off the site. But as you'll see, we've got attenuation and filtration in the drainage strategy, which is that you have permeable paving in parking spaces, and you also have the attenuation basins within the public open space, which are ponds effectively, and they collect all the surface water from the site, roads and roofs. And obviously then it filters out and it's controlled, its exit from the site is controlled to greenfield runoff rates. And that's when it goes into the RDB system clean. Is that what you meant?
It does say in the report the receiving ditch may need improvements. Are you prepared to improve the ditch that is going to receive the water?
Sorry, I understand now. So the IDB ditch is maintained by the IDB, but if we want to discharge anything into their ditch, they will ask us to pay for any extra work that's required to do that, and we'll have to pay.
Okay, thank you. I'll come in then I'll bring Councillor Benny in. Haven't forgotten him, of course. Got three questions. Hopefully the answers you'll give me will give you some comfort. Firstly, will a management company be formed for the upkeep of the dwellings if this is approved today? So that's the first question.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So the affordable dwellings will be managed by whichever housing association takes them on. Obviously, dwellings themselves are managed by the occupiers, and then everyone pays into a management company, and that covers the upkeep of any private areas of road, the drainage system and the public open space. So anything that's not conveyed to you in your title deed becomes part of the management company.
Following on from that then, so the attenuation pond, will that be adopted? Because some companies go for adoption, don't they? Which is, to me, is always the best way, but very rarely happens. But what's your take on that?
I don't have an answer for that yet, I'm afraid. Sometimes Anglian Water will take on bits of it. So they'll take on, for example, the flow control system that takes it out. But I think in this case, because we're not using any Anglian water drainage infrastructure, I don't think they're interested in that kind of thing, which is why you have to have a separate management company that looks after all of that. And I think that's a requirement of either a condition or in the section 106 anyway.
The third one is, which I always say here, regarding the streets, roads primarily, lampposts and lighting and paths, will they be brought up to adoptable standard, or will you, even better, sign an S38 agreement with the council so they can be adopted? So what's your thoughts on that?
So West Street itself, when it is upgraded, it will be upgraded to adoptable standards. So it will have street lights, etc., footpaths to the correct widths, created in the correct way, drainage, etc. So that's will be adopted. Within the site, the main spine road, which is quite short anyway, was 2 little bits, they are likely to be adopted. They have to be done to adoptable standard anyway, but they will be adopted. And then you've got private ways leading off them that wouldn't be adopted. So here we go. So you'll see at the north end there, there's the northwest side, it's in a different colour. So that would be a private drive leading to those 4 houses on the northwest side there. But the rest is to adoptable standard.
Because I sit here, or have sat in the past where developers have said, oh, we're going to either get the streets, roads, paths adopted, and of course they haven't. I can name many applications that I've heard and seen that only do bind a course, then leave them for, well, as many years as you want to throw a stick at, really, to be fair. But I always like comfort, and generally I say, because the private road is 4 houses, isn't it?
Yes.
Private road. So there's 17 if this gets passed on the main stretch, isn't it? So generally, I say, and the developers, if they're absolutely honest about their intentions, and I have no thoughts that you're not, I always say, okay, build your houses, that's fine, but 25% cannot be occupied until such of the 17, which doesn't work out mathematically, I can say, but 25% can't be lived in or occupied until such times the road is brought up to adoptable standard. Because as I reiterate, if you're not careful, these roads are left ages and ages and ages, and residents shouldn't be subjected to that. Would you be in agreement with that?
I do agree, and there's a fault in one of your conditions actually, which I'm just trying to find, because it says something about it being to base course level.
Sorry? Yeah, well, that's binder course, isn't it?
Yes, and it stops at, is it this one? Hang on. Here we go, condition 19. Prior to the first occupation of any dwelling, the roads, footways and cycleways to access that dwelling shall be constructed to at least binder course surfacing level from the dwelling to the adjoining county road, full stop. And actually what it should say is, and the road shall be finished to the finished level, you know, sort of within 3 months of the final occupation or something like that. There's no trigger point for actually finishing the road off, and this is a problem that I've found over the years. So you might just want to address condition 19 before you issue it, just to make sure that, I mean, there's no reason why we wouldn't do a proper job anyway, but that is an issue with the wording of that condition. It doesn't help you.
And obviously we'll look at that. But I suppose the question I'm asking you now is all the good intentions, and as to reiterate, I'm sure that you'll do the job particularly well, but give me some comfort so I can put that in so we can alleviate problems for residents going forward. Yes. I suppose that's what I'm looking for.
For sure. It is the intention to have the road adopted. It's easier to do so, in fact, because then the responsibility goes to the county. And it means that you don't have to charge such a high management fee through the management company to residents. So everyone's a winner if you get it adopted.
So if this is successful, this application, which I'm basically in favour of course, you're happy to put that in as a condition, what I've outlined?
I think it's already in the conditions.
But the 25% isn't.
Oh, that's a bit. I don't think it's physically possible because Section 38 agreement takes years. I think. I don't really know how it works, but I know you have to. There's a bond and there's all sorts of.
But obviously, as you well know, and I don't want to keep drifting on about it, but obviously, county council or this authority here, Fenland District Council, can't force you to enter into an S38 agreement. No. And this just gives me comfort that actually what you say you're going to do, you will do it.
Yeah. Well, I think what you want... Well,
that's what I want,
what I think you might want is the road to be to a good standard when people move in.
That's the least I want, but I certainly do not want a binder course.
And for it to be maintained thereafter.
Yeah, but certainly what I don't want is...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm thinking what I'm saying. So what I don't want is the ironwork, grates and everything else like that protruding from the binder course for X amount of years. That's what I'm trying to... So that helps, that will inspire you if you haven't, say, 4 houses that you can't occupy, that will inspire you to get it all done very quickly. And I'm sure you will, but that just gives me comfort that we're not going to subject residents further down the line.
That's
so
actually controlled.
The answer is yes or no.
Yes, condition 18. In condition 18, prior to the first occupation of any dwelling, details of the proposed arrangements for future management and maintenance of the proposed streets within the development shall have been submitted to and approved in writing. The street shall thereafter be maintained in accordance with the approved management and maintenance details until such time as agreement has been entered into under Section 38 of the Highways Act, that's what you were talking about, the adoption agreement, or a private management and maintenance company has been established. So that's controlled by that condition anyway.
Yeah, it goes some way for that, but it doesn't. You're not sitting here actually saying that's fine, are you? It's just easy for you to say yes, isn't it? That's fine, because, and then that's fine, isn't it?
I am saying that's fine, but I'm confused. What I'm concerned about is that I promised something that can't be delivered by the county council as a highway authority.
Yeah, you know, that concerns me as well, and I don't like making promises either to residents and say, well, I can get this sorted out, then I've got no chance of doing so, which I've done on several occasions. But yeah, so but that condition that I outlined would alleviate any problem for you at all, wouldn't it? That would make us both happy, wouldn't it? You'd be all right. You'd be getting your places occupied, which is obviously what you want, and we'd be getting the road sorted out, which residents will want. Surely, win-win, isn't it?
Absolutely, everyone's a winner, and I think I suppose the difficulty I have with that, and in a way I don't have a difficulty, but the point is, what you're saying is that the road. You're saying 25%.
I'm saying I'm flexible. I'll say 20% if you want.
I'll say it could be 1, it could be nothing, but it could be any house at all. But I think the point is, this condition that's recommended here, condition 18 about street maintenance, it does have the arrangements in there for management to make that we have to agree. And so one of those points in that arrangement, we could actually amend the condition to say and timescale. And so there's an actual timescale that we agree in there, because I think the officers would want to agree that with the highway authority. because they might be committing the highway authority to something that they can't deliver by agreeing that. I may be completely wrong, but I don't want to promise something sort of that can't be achieved when you're going away thinking, oh yeah, that's that. But if we have a condition, this is prior to the first occupation, we've got actually something agreed about the time scale for that and the way that it's going to be maintained, then to my mind, I would like to think that would give you comfort. There's another condition as well, condition 21, before development commences, a timetable for the delivery of the road improvement scheme for West Street, including the byway, etc., to be delivered in accordance with the agreed timescale and retained in perpetuity thereafter. So that's all, I think it's all controlled by conditions, but officers will hopefully confirm to you.
Okay, I'm still not happy, but I will leave it there and I'll bring in Councillor Benny. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairman. You stole my thunder about the percentage of houses before to get the road surface correct. We have this quite regularly at this committee, and I fully understand where you're going with this. I think the Chairman's covered. Sorry, good afternoon, by the way. I think the Chairman has covered most of what I was going to say in there. My other question to you, when this came before, the plot 1, which is near 88, was going to be a bungalow when it came back. And now I see it's a house because there is overlooking, and the number 88, it doesn't show it on this plan or on your plan, but there's a conservatory there. And if you've got a house that's overlooking into somebody's conservatory, that isn't what we asked for, and you were going to take that away and convert that one into a bungalow, which you have not done. Can you explain why, please?
Thank you, Chairman. That's helpful. If you look at the site plan, you'll see that the conservatory is literally on the end of number 88, and it's included within that black outline of the black outline of the house itself. Hang on, where are the current application? So just at the top there, that black outline, that is the conservatory on the end of that house. And what you'll see is that property number 1 has been set back from that so that it doesn't sort of overlook the conservatory or face the conservatory in any way. And you've also got a condition recommended which says, let me find it, I think it's one of the earlier ones. Obscure glaze. Condition 3, the first floor side elevations, it's the wrong one, has in the windows of plots 3, 10, 11 and 15 shall be obscure glazed. I know, it's because there aren't any windows in the north elevation of plot 1. So actually you could change that condition or add to that condition to say, and no windows at all shall be provided in the north elevation of plot 1. And then that's covered any overlooking opportunity. We did have a different design for that house, but because we've had to lose a plot to accommodate the changes to the road alignment and not being able to provide any development other than crossing paths and accesses across the public right of the byway, which is the hatched area. That's technically the byway, so it counts as highway land. And, you know, you can't build anything on highway land, you can just have grass. So because of that, we had to move the house back from that. And because of that as well, we had less space, which is why we lost the house. You'll see that the previous application had a garage at that side, so it's kind of stepping down. But what we've done is we've moved that. You can't see it very well on there, but we've moved it down, we've moved it south from the boundary with number 88. So whereas previously we had it like really close to the boundary and further forward, it's now further back and further south as well. So I hope that will be acceptable.
You can, absolutely.
You may have moved it, but you told us, you assured us when you sat there last time that that was going to be a bungalow, and it hasn't come back as a bungalow. And here we are, you're asking us as a committee to take your word that you're going to bring these roads up to adoptable standard. And you haven't done this time what you told us you would do when you went away. You said, yes, we will work with you, happy, that will be a bungalow there, we will reduce the height of that. And you haven't done it. You're not inspiring me with a great amount of confidence that you're going to provide the road surface. We've got Ellingham Gardens in Chatteris, which is exactly what we do not want in Chatteris. Again, another unmade road. And you went away, yes, we will change that to a bungalow, and you brought it back. And have you listened to what the committee steered you and gave you? I feel not.
I'm sorry about that, because we really, we worked very closely with the architect, and at that time that we were speaking to you last time, we didn't have the width of the road set. And because of that, we weren't able to provide what we wanted to provide on the site. We've literally lost a whole property out of the scheme. That's had an impact on the proportion of affordable housing. It's had a huge impact. And so things have changed, you know, quite significantly since the previous application. And so it's not financially possible to put a bungalow on that site. There's no objection from the neighbour. Officers have assessed the impact on the neighbours. They've decided it's acceptable. If they had come back and said, look, we can't recommend this unless you put a bungalow on it, then obviously we would have changed that. But they're happy with it. You know, they're professional officers making that assessment. So I would hope you would take some comfort from the fact that that's okay. You know, this is an expensive scheme now. The road improvements to West Street, it's not just that we're doing some work outside our own site. We're actually doing up West Street as well, as you'll see. It goes, well, not on that plan, on the location plan, there's a whole spike of land further up that we're also having to make up to a proper adoptable standard road. So, you know, a bungalow takes up a huge space geographically on the ground. So to do that, we would end up with a cramped development or losing another unit or some other problem. And you know, you've got to make a building that people are going to pay for to make the scheme work as a development. So I'm sorry it wasn't a bungalow. However, your other question was about the road adoption, and obviously you've got very strongly worded conditions here which make sure that the road will be properly provided, made up to proper standard, and thereafter maintained. So I hope that is comfort to you as well. Thank you.
Please do.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you've lost a plot, if it doesn't fit on the side of the land, it doesn't fit, does it? That is, and the viability of it is not the consideration of this committee. It is the planning policy, and also, if you don't do the land deal properly, that is again not a consideration of this committee. It is the land, and we asked you for a bungalow on there, and you have not delivered a bungalow there. And I don't hear the agreements we have every week. We have people sitting in your chair and we sit in ours, and we have other agents that come along and quite readily agree to what the chairman has proposed in terms of occupancy before the final course goes on the road. Now, other agents say, yes, that's fine, we can work with it, but you seem to have some resistance against that, which I fail to see. I really would like to see that incorporated within that, but we can ask officers about that when it comes to officers. But I think that I agree, no objections on here, but we did ask for that, and you smilingly went away agreeing, yes, we will do that, we will put a bungalow there, and you haven't delivered what we asked you for, and therefore you can sit and tell us that you're going to put the top course on the road, but will you? That is my hesitancy on agreeing to this one today.
Thank you. I think the conditions are sufficient. If it would work, and I would just want, it's a shame that a highway officer isn't here and we couldn't ask them. I would just want the officers to liaise with the highway authority before putting that condition on. But if that's something you do elsewhere, oh, fine, well, let's go for it then. I have no problem as a planning consultant with saying, yes, we'll make the road up to adoptable standard throughout prior to the occupation of 25% of the houses. That's fine. That's absolutely fine, because it probably would anyway. But I'm just wondering if it's legal to do that in planning the meeting the tests. But the officers will advise you about that. If they advise you that's acceptable, then we're absolutely happy to accept that. Not a problem. Thank you.
Have you finished, Councillor Benny?
I was just going to say thank you very much. That answers the question. And I think you've now got the answer that you were looking for 15 minutes ago, Mr. Chairman.
I think I have, Councillor Benny. Thank you for gripping that. Just to reiterate, we've done it on perhaps 8 to 10 occasions now, because we don't want unfinished roads. We don't want that. And each time, yes, agents, applicants have said that's absolutely fine. So, and we haven't had any challenges yet. If you're absolutely certain that's what's going to do, why would you challenge it? You wouldn't, would you? You'd just do it automatically and crack on, wouldn't you? Then you get your houses occupied, and everything's win-win for everybody, isn't it? But I've gone on enough about that. So, and thank you for eventually getting to where I think Councillor Benny and I needed to be. Anybody else at all before we let you go? No, can't see no burning desire. We're all quiet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for your patience. Right, members, questions to officers. Councillor French.
Maybe the officers can answer some of the questions that were asked about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Thank you, through Chairman. I think initially to pick up on the issue of the bungalow and that northeastern corner of the site, as has been sort of set out within the officer report and as set out in the presentation as well. The previous application was refused purely on the issue of the unknown width of the byway and the delivery of the road improvements. There was actually a recommended reason for refusal relating to the relationship between the plot closest to number 88, which ultimately was not included within the ultimate refusal. And again, as set out within the report, that relationship in that northeastern corner has been assessed and is deemed to be an actual improvement on the one that was considered previously. Consequently, whether members were under the impression that a bungalow was going to be delivered there, whether the agent previously indicated that a bungalow was going to be delivered there, is somewhat irrelevant almost, given that the application in front of members has been assessed as being appropriate in that sense, and that's what's got to be considered by the committee today, is whether that's an acceptable relationship or not. And given that, as I've indicated, the previous reason for refusal regarding that relationship wasn't carried through onto the decision, then I think it would be somewhat difficult to say that an improved relationship is now unacceptable in that regard. Moving on to the issue of the condition regarding the road surface, I think there was perhaps a little bit of talking at cross purposes between members and perhaps the agent as well, in terms of, I think members are looking for a condition that requires the road to be to adoptable standard rather than actually adopted by the Highway Authority. The Chairman's quite correct in that that's been used in other situations where we've required X number of dwellings to be occupied or not to be occupied until the road is made up to adoptable standard. I think the difficulty that there is here is that clearly there's perhaps essentially 20% of the development will be served from a private driveway anyway. You've got the issue of West Street needing to be upgraded to an adoptable standard in any event, which would serve several of the other dwellings. I think consequently, to sort of put a blanket condition on of 75% of the dwellings can be occupied prior to the prior to the roads being made to adoptable standard, then nothing beyond that until adoptable standard would be perhaps a little bit difficult in this particular instance. However, if members want that form of condition to be included, the conditions that are set out within the report are sort of draft conditions, and delegation is sought to the head of planning to sort of finalise those. So I'm sure that's something that could be facilitated if that's the committee's desire. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, do you want to come back, Councillor French? No, myself personally, I would like that condition included. Really, that would give me comfort, future residents comfort, and this planning committee comfort. And thank you. I've got just one in the presentation, and I just want to say I'm primarily in favour of this, but in the presentation it says the majority of the built form is in flood zone 1. So what percentage of the built form is in flood zone 2 or 3 then?
Through you, Chairman, I wouldn't like to put a figure on it. However, there are none of the actual dwellings within flood zones 2 and 3. When you actually look at the, unfortunately, it's not produced very well, but essentially flood zones 2 and 3 are shown on the. It might be slightly clear actually within the agenda pack on page 121 of the plan that's been produced. So there's a sort of a pink line that goes down the sort of western side of the site, which indicates where the flood zones are. As I say, the actual dwellings themselves are not within the flood zones. Some of the car parking spaces are, and I think some of the sort of ends of the turning heads on the access roads are within flood zones 2 and 3, but none of the actual dwellings themselves are within flood zones.
Yep, thank you for clarification. That's what it says in the presentation, but we are where we are. So, any more questions to members at all? To officers at all from members? Councillor.
Yeah, coming back to the, you've said a percentage of houses. We've also done it with a number, haven't we? We've had it where we've had the last 3 houses cannot be occupied until the road has been made up to an adoptable standard. That will just be built, but the last 3 houses of the market housing, because I do not want to see West Street left where this road is not made up all the way down, and there's a considerable amount of money to be spent on this, which is worked within the scheme, but Ellingham Gardens was worked up, and that was a viable scheme, and the developer there just turned around and said, no, we're not doing it. And I don't want to see a long stretch of West Street, the opportunity missed to have this brought up to an adoptable standard. It doesn't have to be adopted, it has to be to an adoptable standard. And I really would like, as you say, comfort on this to know that this is going to happen. Now, if we don't do it as a percentage of houses, which is a bit awkward when you've got a mix of housing, that the last 3 market housing cannot be occupied until the top course goes on. But there's a lot of money to be spent, and there's a lot of money to be made by not doing this. And that's where my concern is on this.
I think they're relevant concerns. If I may make a suggestion then, we'll take your suggestion then, the last 3 market housing then. That's fine by me. 3, so, yeah. So could we add that?
Chairman, thank you, through you, Chairman. Just draw members' attention to condition 21, which sets out that before development commences, a timetable for the delivery of the road improvement scheme for West Street, including the byway, shall be submitted to and agreed in writing by the local planning authority. The scheme shown on the approved plan shall be delivered in accordance with the agreed timetable and shall be retained in perpetuity thereafter. So I would fully anticipate that condition would include, as part of that timetable, an actual schedule for when the sort of final, the final coat. It's probably not the right phrase, but the final sort of level of tarmac is actually sort of put on the road, relative to the delivery of the wider development. So I think the mechanism that Councillor Benny is referencing is perhaps already included within that condition 21.
Okay, so it does seem like it, but so if we can just add that on, for 3, just for extra, just for extra comfort.
If it's already covered, there won't be any problem with adding a second condition, will there? And as much as 98% of all development goes ahead smoothly and it works, we as councillors get left with bits that go wrong, and that's what we're trying to stop here. We've all, I think nearly everybody sitting around here has had where we have had developers that just walk off because they can save tens of thousands of pounds by not doing it. And I'm not saying this will happen on this one, but it does happen. Your friend or your colleague from county said he could paper his wallpaper with the S38 agreements that never happened, and that's what we're trying to stop here.
Yeah, he did, and he said it in that chamber too, in this chamber as well. So I would like the comfort, as Councillor Benny has quite rightfully said, there's no harm in making it cast iron. So if we could, and if you could see your way to putting that in, I'm sure the committee would be really grateful.
Through you, Chairman, as I indicated earlier, if it's the committee's desire to see that form of condition imposed, then that's something that we can obviously try and take forward. My further concern would be that potentially putting the kind of triggers in that is being talked about may actually be less stringent than the scheme that could be brought forward as required through condition 21. So my concern would be that you actually end up with sort of 2 conditions that are slightly working against each other in effect. So as I indicate, if the committee wants that condition, then fine. But I would have concerns as to whether it might ultimately, in this particular case, be a little bit sort of self-defeating, perhaps.
Any?
Partly a question to David, although you've answered it. You said that does, then that is fair enough. If you're telling us that the condition that's in there already covers that, then I feel that is, we don't want to put it in conflict, because that again causes trouble further down the line. And if that condition does cover that, then what we are trying to stop is already covered.
If I may, Chairman, just through you again, to come back on that point, my anticipation would be that the scheme submitted as part of condition 21 would set out at various stages of the delivery of the development what highway improvement works would be carried out, and that would include a commitment as to when the final level of surfacing would be applied to the road relative to the delivery of whatever stage of the development. So potentially you've got something in there that would say that before the occupation, if the developer puts this forward, that the final level of tarmac, the road markings, etc., will be delivered within X of the occupation of whatever unit within the development. So I think that's would be brought forward through the scheme to be submitted as part of condition 21, in my view.
Yeah. So would that be agreed before you issue the decision notice? And if it is, could myself or could whoever proposes or seconds this one and the chairman have a look at that to make sure we're happy with that? Can you hold the decision, or not hold the decision notice, but would that be agreed before the decision notice is handed, is written out? Because you're holding other decision notices back that so you can do it, but that once the decision notice is issued, then we have no member callback to bring it back if we're not happy with it.
Through you, Chairman, that's not how a condition works. So the conditions included within the planning permission. So the planning permission will be issued, and then there would need to be those details submitted through a separate discharge of condition application at whatever stage that that's brought forward within the 3-year life of the planning permission. So essentially, if members are wanting to see that information submitted before a decision's made, you're effectively wanting to defer the decision to allow that information to be submitted, which I'm sure is not in anybody's interest. I mean, all I can sort of reiterate is that in my view, condition 21, as proposed within the agenda pack, would deliver the necessary information that I think the committee is trying to seek through a further additional condition.
Well, one would like to think, I would like to think so, but with the 3, that's a good backup. It may be, if everything goes smoothly, we haven't got to worry about it, have we? That's my opinion.
If everything went smoothly, nobody'd ever get run over, would they?
So, no, they wouldn't. So, me personally, I still like that if it just conflicts a bit with it, well, if it gets all done, everybody, and it gets going nicely, everybody will forget about it and everything will be good and people will be living in it, everybody will be happy and nobody will be ringing you up, will they, and saying, look, this road isn't brought up to standard, Councillor Benny, will they? So, and or wherever. So I would still like that put in.
Through you, Chairman, if I may, just to give a scenario. So potentially members are wanting a condition requiring, so what we're talking about, 18 dwellings to be delivered prior to, or 18 dwellings can be delivered before the road needs to be made up to adoptable standard. As part of condition 21, you could end up with a potential scenario where the developer says, actually, I want to deliver the road to adoptable standard before the occupation of, say, 50%. Yet you've got a potentially better situation under condition 21, which you're then sort of declining because it conflicts with your additional condition, and that's the point I was making earlier, in that you potentially end up with 2 conditions that rub against each other.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, that happened in Wilmington. I think it's the Lily Estate, or one of those there. I always forget which one it is, but one of those where we were going to put conditions. The road's got to be, the path's got to be in before 50% of occupation, and this is 3 or 4 years after, and the path is still not in. The road is still not done. You know, so, and I've taken a great interest with Councillor Davis on that one, and so it doesn't necessarily mean because you have an occupation that they're going to stick to it as the application at Wilmington. Councillor French, I'll bring in a new voice.
Thank you. Can I suggest we move on? We're stuck at questions to officers. I think officers have answered the questions. And I think we should leave these conditions to the officers to sort out.
Well, okay, I don't agree, but we are where we are. So, after that, so now, thank you everybody, and now invite members to debate the item in respect to material considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. Councillor Benny.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm going to go back to what we were talking about earlier. Truthfully, listen to what David said, and because a big part of the development is on a private road, I do see what he means. In this case, it works in some, and I think that in this case, I think section 38 is actually a better piece of, or a better condition than putting a number on it. Partly because of the private road that's there. So long as West Street is made up, which it is covered in section 38, I'm happy with that.
We're still in debate. Councillor Meekins, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be back. There's a couple of points really. First one is there's been no mention, or that I can remember being brought up, about the number of objections.
It's all very well having 11 individual objections and 167 petitions, and this is my ward. But it comes down to policy, and planning applications are not the X factor, where they're done on popularity or whether you do or not vote for something or whether you want it. This was refused before on the access, and the only thing we could go for or against is the access, and the access is now right. We can't bring up things that were in there before, and there is no other reason to turn this down. And if we defer it, what would we be deferring it for? There's nothing to sort out, because the only reason that we could defer it is if we were not happy with the access, because the access was the only reason it was turned down before. So therefore, you know, it may be unpopular, but at the same time, it is policy, and if we turn it down, it will go to appeal, and the appeal will be overturned, and people's council tax will go up to pay for that bad decision. And that is the truth of it. There is no reason to turn this down. Disappointed in some aspects of it, but you very often get a planning committee where you look at things and you think, I don't like that, but not liking something and it's not a reason to turn something down. It's based on policy, and the policy is this is policy compliant.
Just going to bring in officers now. Did you want to? You don't really want to say anything? Don't blame you, really. So, do I have a proposer to go with officer's recommendation to grant planning permission? Councillor French. Have I got a seconder? Councillor Benny. You're seconded. So that took a little bit of convincing in your mind, I'm sure. So with that, we've got a proposal to go with officer's recommendation to grant planning permission by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Benny. All those in favour of that?
That's unanimous.
Thank you. So just before we leave this, are we still sticking by condition 21 and not adding?
Through you, Chairman, the committee's just made its decision and didn't request that condition was included. So I would suggest that
I'm just
proceed.
I thought that's why you wanted to get going quickly. Left 10 minutes, please. Yep, thank you members for being back promptly. I'll now further ado hand over to Alan Davis to present application F/YR25/0223F, agenda item number 7. So when you're ready, Alan, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application is for a total of 9 dwellings with associated estate road, garages, parking, landscaping, involved in the demolition of the existing garage store and site at land south of 28 to 29 Juniper Close, Dodington. The application is submitted on behalf of Construct Reason, and the agent, Lee Bevans, is here today to present. The reason for the application being in front of Planning Committee is a number of representations contrary to officer recommendation. So on the screen we have the location plan on the left hand side, and on the right hand side the aerial photo. You'll see from the location plan the access to the site is through the existing Juniper Close to the north. On the right hand side the aerial photo shows the site and its context, with agricultural fields to the northwest, the high street of Dodington to the south, and the existing modern development to the east of the site. To the west of the site, approximately where it extends out to the west, is the Grade 2 listed Dodington windmill. The aerial photo also identifies a number of existing trees on site, of which a number are proposed to be retained as part of this application. The proposed site plan shows that the development will front onto the main access road, which will effectively form a cul-de-sac from Juniper Close. The northwest of the site will have an attenuation pond surrounded by proposed landscaping with a trim trail. On the east of the site, there's a second attenuation pond, and further south to that, there is a proposed area of planting to mitigate the impact of the proposed dwelling close to 9 the Larches. As you can see, the dwellings front onto the proposed highway. All dwellings have 2 parking spaces clear of the highway and detached garages. And again, you can see from the layout plan to the west of the site, the Grade 2 listed windmill. In addition to all this, you'll notice in the very northeast of the site, there's a sort of curved area, which is shown in green. That's to the west of 9 Sutton Way. That area of land is proposed to be transferred to the owners of 9 Sutton Way to increase private garden, to improve their amenity and ensure their privacy as part of this proposed development. This application follows a previous scheme that was refused under reference YR230500. It's on the left hand side of the screen. That previous application was for 14 dwellings, whereas this one is for 9. The previous refusal had a single reason for refusal, that reason being impact on heritage, namely the visual impact on the setting of the Grade 2 listed windmill to the west of the site. This proposal, as you can see from the layout, seeks to address that previous reason for refusal by moving the built form, moving the dwellings away from the setting of the windmill, and removing, as you can see, a number of dwellings in the northwest corner of the site. The nearest one now being plot 1 on the western side of the site. For members' benefit, there's a few examples of the proposed house types. There are a number of house types proposed in the scheme. All of them are bungalows, and they are true bungalows, so they're single story. There's no proposed rooms in the attic or dormers or Velux windows proposed. As you can see, relatively modern designs, albeit they do have all feature chimneys, just to give it some character for the site. This is the Blytheborough house type. Again, another single story variation of the house types with their chimney details, and as you can see from the roof plan is proposed to have solar photovoltaic panels. You can get an idea of the proposed site and street scene from the site sections drawing. One thing to note, the BB cross-section, which is the two bottom drawings, you can see the existing windmill in the background. That gives you an idea of context and scale of the windmill, which is obviously double the height of the proposed bungalows. The 3D aerial visuals of the site show the dwellings, which will be located primarily in the south of the site, with the open space in the north, which will surround the attenuation pond. Whilst the open space is considered to be a positive of the scheme, it's highly unlikely, because of the cul-de-sac nature of the development, with the exception of the pedestrian link through to Sutton Way, because of the cul-de-sac nature of the development, it's highly unlikely that residents outside of this site will actually use the open space. So whether its benefits are truly public is debatable. That said, it is acknowledged that it is a positive. Also, due to the nature of the proposal and it being for 9 dwellings, there are no affordable houses proposed, so these are all not market dwellings. Just to give you an idea of the site, so the top left-hand corner image is a view into the site from the north. The top right-hand corner image is a view towards the windmill in the background. As you can see, some of the existing vegetation in between the site itself, or on the boundary of the site and between the windmill. Bottom left-hand corner is the northern boundary of the site, with the existing bungalows on Juniper Close itself. And then the last photo is the western boundary, with the existing dwellings on the larches. These are 2-storey in nature, and the layout has been designed to minimise any chance of overlooking or loss of privacy for those existing dwellings on the larches. So in terms of the proposal is recommended for refusal, the reason being the impact of the scheme on the setting of the Grade 2 listed building would undermine and remove the agricultural setting of the listed building. As stated, permission sought for the erection of 9 single-storey dwellings, state road parking, attenuation ponds, and change of use of land for 9 Sutton Way. The application site is located within the village of Dodington, which is designated as a growth village under policy LP3 of the local plan. In these settlements, development either within the existing urban area or as small village extensions are considered to be appropriate. Therefore, this scheme in principle is considered to be appropriate, notwithstanding the impact of it on the setting of the Grade 2 listed building. The proposed development would substantially change the setting of the Grade 2 listed windmill, and the level of harm caused by that change would be considered to be less than substantial, but medium within the spectrum, and therefore that would be contrary to paragraph 212 of the National Plan Policy Framework. In terms of the planning balance, whilst the proposal would add a total of 9 new private market dwellings to the local market, and add areas of landscaping which could have some public benefit, these benefits do not outweigh the harm to the setting of the Grade 2 listed windmill to the west of the application site, and therefore, for that reason, the proposal was recommended for refusal. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. We have 3 sets of speakers on this application. First, I would like to invite Councillor Ruth Houghton. She's the chair of Dodington Parish Council, to make her presentation to the committee. You've got the full 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Dodington Parish Council objects to this application for the following reasons. Dodington was designated a growth village in the current local plan, and in addition to the 127 homes, the 15% growth required, a further 196 have already been built, and we have confirmation from FDC that no further housing would be required under that plan. There are no affordable homes scheduled in the new application, and 106 monies will not be allocated to be used in the village. Any 106 money is likely to be used elsewhere in Fenland. The developer speaks of this development as being perfect for the elderly, but to access the high street from the south of the new development will mean a 1,500-metre walk through the new site, through Juniper Close, onto Wood Street before joining High Street. There is no access directly onto High Street. This means more car journeys will be made, leading to additional congestion through the pinch point at the top of Wood Street that opens onto a puffing crossing, taking children to and from the village school. Construction traffic will cause noise, dirt and congestion on the High Street through phase 1 of Juniper Close and onto Wood Street, which is narrow, making it difficult for two HGVs to pass each other. I also understand that the planned changes at number 9 Sutton Way to extend the garden and provide a walkway into the site has not been discussed with or agreed by the resident. The residents of 9 The Larches have serious concerns about the impact of this development on their home. Their main living spaces sit directly on the eastern boundary, next to Plot 7's proposed 5.2 metre high garage. This structure will be overbearing and cause significant overshadowing, particularly in the garden room, which is used daily as a home office. This room is not shown on the plans, so the loss of light has not been properly assessed. Their home already suffers from poor natural light, and the addition of a pond area and 90 square metres of dense shrubbery, which could reach 3.3 to 6 metres in height, will worsen this further and force greater reliance on artificial lighting. Due to the difference in land levels, the public pond will overlook their home and garden, severely reducing privacy, whilst also exposing the public space to views from the Larches. The risk of stagnant water and health impacts so close to a kitchen, diner and patio has not been addressed. These serious impacts on residential amenity have therefore not been properly considered. The Grade 2 listed windmill tower is the only remaining artefact from that period of the village's history and is therefore an important part of the heritage of Dodington. The buffer between the tower and the proposed bungalows now contains an attenuation pond, which, when it's dug, may cause damage to the foundations of the building. When the first phase of Juniper Close was built, the fenestration in the windmill tower was compromised, with all the glass falling out. We felt that piling had taken place on the site, which was categorically denied by Reason Homes. I have since acquired an email from the Senior Planning Obligations Manager, dated June the 22nd, 2022, which states, in addition to the appraisals that have been submitted, I have also received evidence of piling costs, confirmation of the assumed cost for plot specification, etc. This confirms our suspicion that the damage was caused by piling and that Reason Homes blatantly lied to myself and my partner. Therefore, it follows that piling in this new phase could cause irreparable damage to the foundations of the tower. The roadway in the first phase was not completed, and reassurance is needed that this will happen if and when this second phase is completed. Will it be adopted or managed by a residents' committee? Anglian Water are concerned that surface water issues have not been addressed properly and could pose risk of flooding and pollution. The site has been flooded for 2 years to a depth of 6 to 8 inches when rainfall has been heavy, something that is expected to be the norm in the coming months and years. The site is already teeming with wildlife, with a plethora of mammals, rare birds and myriad insects and plant life. How will the developer mitigate for that loss? Certainly not by building a wildlife pond. The plans also contain no information as to who will maintain that. In addition to that, the same problems still remain as were present when this site was put forward for development in the past. The school is still at capacity, the doctor's surgery is full, sewage system has not been fit for purpose for many years, and despite remedial works that have taken place at Coneywood, is still not functioning without constant problems. Add to that very poor transport, public transport, parking problems throughout the village, but especially on High Street and Wood Street, and this development makes no sense. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Houghton. Members, questions to Mrs Houghton, please. And you're the lucky straw, Councillor French. Up to you.
Thank you. Councillor Houghton, can you tell me if is there any proposal to actually maintain the windmill, the tower?
Okay. Anybody got any other questions? So I suppose I'm going to ask you one now, and it's something we've got to have a crystal ball, I suppose, to have a look at this. So when, if and when where you live gets bought by some other person of an unknown, it is possible for that person to, who probably could well have that money, to put that windmill right. So it's not a basket case, is it? It's somebody who's got some sort of, who likes those sort of things, will certainly be interested in that, and they will put it right. That's your belief.
Yes, it is.
So it's also your belief, I would have thought, by your presentation, that if the piling or that attenuation pond gets dug, or the piling for the foundations, it will put an end to that windmill once and for all, or make it absolutely non-viable.
Yeah, I'm not, I totally would think that is absolutely right. I'm not able to...
Sorry.
I tend to think that you're absolutely right where that's concerned. I'm not capable of actually saying anything engineering-wise, but I have no idea what the footings are like on that mill, how deep they are, or anything that happens with that. So, but certainly, not only did the piling take the windows out of the windmill when it was done on the first phase of Juniper Close, but we had problems in the house with noise and a bit of cracking as well in the house because of that.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine.
Because we're all getting no younger, are we? And one of these days we're not going to be the, well, okay, speak for myself then. But I'm certainly not getting any younger, and whoever, one never knows the future, but one would have thought somebody will take that on, in my belief anyway. Okay, anybody else got any questions for Councillor Houghton? No, you got away with that very lightly, thank you. Members, questions to officers?
No speakers.
Oh, sorry, silly me. Now I'd like to, sorry for that. Right, now I'd like to invite Anthony Gowing. He's an objector to make his presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes. Sorry, I nearly missed you out there. I do apologise.
Good afternoon, everybody. Right, okay, my concerns relate to the sustainability and, oh, sorry, it's blocking the mic, is it? Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, it's just that I can't see you. Right. My concerns relate to the sustainability and future management of the estate with open questions. What adoption processes does the developer intend to agree for the road in order to maintain it for the future? Will it be a signed Section 38 agreement, which is a binding contract with a bond security, or will it be a Section 37 agreement like the existing Juniper Close? However, there is no guarantee under Section 37 adoption will happen, apart from the developer's word. Regarding the studs, does the developer intend to engage with Anglian Water from the outset to determine the design and maintenance of it? As Anglian Water has said, they are unable to provide comments in the sustainability of the surface water management in the plan. However, in this application, even so, MTC Engineering say they have used the Anglian Water SUDS adoption process for maintenance, but refer to there being no SUDS approval body in the UK, so if adoption does not take place, it leaves the SUDS unmaintained except by the developer until handover. There seems no mechanism to provide maintenance services in perpetuity, much like the 2020 existing SUDS in Juniper Close, which is overgrown with vegetation. Therefore, what mitigations will be in place to make sure the SUDS and pond are maintained from day one of their construction? MTC also say detailed design of the surface water drainage system will only take place once planning permission has been granted. But Anglian Water say the developer should note that the site drainage details submitted have not been approved for the purposes of adoption, And if he wishes to have the sewers included in a sewer adoption agreement under Section 104 of the Water Industry Act, to contact them. Therefore, is there a risk that the costs when problems might occur to unadopted drainage fall to the homeowners to be shared amongst them? Finally, does the developer therefore intend to form a management company for maintenance of the estate, or will they sign the necessary declarations for adoption of everything discussed here in collaboration with the relevant authorities? Otherwise, we are in the risk category of an unfinished estate. This plan, in its present form to me, produces a vision most people would love, but I find the detail ambiguous to satisfy me that I will be seeing a finished adopted estate in the next 3 years or so. I live on Juniper Close. I moved there in 2020. I have not seen the road finished since then. And the developer has assured me that once this construction is finished, he will finish the road. All I have is his word. I've had constant communication with the developer, and I'm not satisfied with the answers that I've been given over 5 years.
Okay, I'll just come in there. You can be rest assured, Mr. Gowan, I shall be asking the agent to try and address.
Sorry.
I'll just come in, I'll just do it again. Yeah, you can be reassured, Mr. Gowing, that I shall be asking the agent, or who sits over to my left, the very questions that you've asked in your presentation. Thank you. That members, questions to officer, questions to Mr. Gowing, and it's you, Councillor French. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Looking through the information that we have, Anglia Water have no objections. So it's interesting to hear what you've just said.
Yes, I read forensically all the paperwork on the portal regarding Anglian Water's correspondence. And as I say, there is a kind of hands-off, but you, the developer, can communicate with us, because be aware that the suds, the pond, especially the suds, will not be adopted. And also, you haven't discussed with us about the drainage, which means at the moment that the sewers won't be adopted either. So I presume this might happen later on. I did look at previous applications. I looked at the 2017 application. I couldn't find details of a 104 agreement, but I did see the agreement about connecting the sewers up, which had to take place anyway. But what I see is a conflict between the hydrology engineering company that Reason Homes has employed and the lack of communication with Anglian Water. Anglian Water have their own conditions as to how a suds should be built, designed, built and maintained. And if they say that if you do not go through that route, then there is no way they will consider at all adopting a suds. So in effect, I learned that the suds that already exists in Juniper Close will never be adopted, and it is completely overgrown because it has been unmaintained and the outlet is almost completely blocked. As I say, my concern is that this could end up an unmaintained estate, just like the one I live in. The developer in the deeds on my estate, in the TP1, has stated there will be no maintenance charges to residents. So in that effect, if a management company is formed in the other parts of the estate, I can see all sorts of conflicts occurring if, for example, residents in existing estate are asked to sign a deed of variation so that they come in with the maintenance company for the upkeep of the estate. I want this whole estate to be maintained. I want it I want the binder course top coat to be completed now, not as the developer says, which he uses the excuse of, that because he's going to drive his vehicles down our road, he's going to damage the road, because he actually surfaced Wood Street with a top coat in order to build the existing Juniper Close anyway. So I don't buy that argument either. I can understand it from an engineering point of view, It makes sense in terms of the case he's putting forward because it saves him money. But I was expecting in 2023 to be living on an estate with a finished road and a maintained suds. And my fear is what's going to happen is if this goes ahead, we're going to end up in a very risky situation where none of it is finished to adoptable standards and adopted by the relevant authorities, because already the right actions haven't taken place. Okay.
If I can come back, Chairman, well, I think between yourself and Councillor Houghton, you've asked a lot of questions, and I think the developer is behind us, and when it's his opportunity, maybe he can answer some of these things. But I believe, with regard to the right to connect with Anglia Water, under the Drainage Act, developers do have the right to connect to Anglia Water. Anglia Water cannot refuse it. Sitting on a 10 drainage boards, we've been trying to get the right to connect discontinued, but Parliament will not do it.
No, I know they will connect, but what I'm saying is it's about the adoption. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Gowing? No, can't see any. Thank you very much. So, I'd now like to invite Lee Bevins. He's the agent to make his presentation to the committee. You've also got 5 minutes, Mr. Bevins. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. We've worked closely with the Planning Officer, Alan Davis, throughout the planning process and dealt with any issues proactively. This scheme follows previously refused schemes for 16 dwellings in 2022 and 14 dwellings in 2024. This scheme is significantly different to previous applications. Not only is it over 35% less numbers, but it also provides a greater public benefit for viewing the Grade 2 listed windmill. The proposed application does not create any flooding issues and has actually been designed to accept surface water runoff from the adjacent development at the Larches, which have soakaways that do not work in clay soil, hence they flood into our site. Anglian Water raised no objections, and there are no objections from Highways or Ecology. The proposed density equates to 9 dwellings to the hectare, which is very low density and not overdevelopment. The Conservation Officer clearly rates the setting of the Grade 2 listed windmill highly, but unfortunately it cannot easily be seen from any public vantage point. If I refer members to the PowerPoint presentation that's behind me, I've walked the public footpaths around the site and very limited views of the former windmill exist. It cannot be seen really from the High Street, which is the main thoroughfare through the village. I've walked the public footpath FP10 that exists from Benwick Road that runs north past the village hall. The first 3 slides show the views towards the former windmill from various points along this route. I've highlighted the position of the former windmill as it's obscured by vegetation. The only current views are long distance ones. Slide 4 shows the current view of the former windmill from the application site. Again, the windmill is largely hidden by existing trees and vegetation, which will remain unaffected by the proposal. In this aspect, the Conservation Officer has the chance for the public to see the former windmill much clearer rather than trespassing on private land. Should there be the possibility of the former windmill being converted or renovated in the future, it's even more important that the public can see it. The applicant has suggested they are happy to pay for signage to allow the public to reach the new area of public open space on the site, which has seating proposed, allowing much better views of the former windmill, as well as improving the setting of the listed building. Slide 5 shows a comparison between the current scheme of 9 dwellings and the previously refused 14. Members can see that the layout has significantly improved the setting of the listed building by providing a greater green setting to the north and east, with previous dwellings being removed from this area. Slide 6 shows that the area of public open space and attenuation pond is part of the application site and not just an area that's been left out of the application. Great attention to landscape detail and ecology has been made to provide the public with a usable space, but also to provide seating that faces towards the former windmill. Over 35% of the proposed site is now green space. With slide 6, members can also see how the proposed development has been sympathetically inserted into the site with all single-storey dwellings. The image also shows how the setting of the listed building and conservation area have already been eroded by the 2 sheds directly next to the former windmill and the erection of a bland detached house with integral garages built in the early 80s. Our heritage consultant has tried to address the concerns raised by the Conservation Officer. The site does not lie within the Dodington Conservation Area, and this is more focused on the High Street and Benwick Road and the curtilages associated with these properties. The site is surrounded by suburban development and not visible or appreciated from any part of the conservation area. There are no views into or out of the conservation area across the site due to the tight building line along the High Street to the south and the enclosure of the site by the existing development to the north. The Conservation Officer notes that the windmill is best appreciated from its immediate setting in close range, where it can be appreciated in full view. These views will only be possible from the application site. The proposal will provide the views that the Conservation Officer seeks, close range. The large area of public open space will allow the wider public to appreciate the windmill. It's noted in the officer's report that there is currently no mechanism proposed for the POS to be secured for public use. The applicant will retain the area of POS and continue to maintain it, so there is guaranteed access to view the windmill in the future. The sensitivity of the application site and the listed windmill and the proposals will enable much better appreciation of a key building in Dodington without detriment to the character and appearance of the conservation area. We would therefore ask members to look at the benefits that this scheme can provide and largely supporting nature of the planning officer's comments and go against the conservation officer's recommendation. This scheme is a sustainable development, and according with the development plan as a whole, we would ask members to support the recommendation and approve it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mr Bevans, members' questions, clarifications. Councillor French, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr Bevans. Can you tell me who owns the trees that are obscuring the wind?
So the vast majority of the trees are outside the ownership of the site, so they are in adjoining land.
So the
Yeah, so there's a hedgerow that runs around the boundary, which is sort of, I think, 50-50 ownership, and then there's a couple of trees that are actually outside the application site itself.
Well, if you finished, Councillor French.
Well, I think obviously the last two speakers had quite a lot. Maybe Mr Bevan can actually answer some of the questions that
I'm happy to put some of the questions to Mr Bevans if members are happy for me to do so, and we'll crack on then. Okay, so, right, if the 9 houses are successful, will there be a management company? We'll take one question because we don't want to get you muddled, do we? And I'm sure you won't be, but the management company, because there's several of them, the management company. So I suppose the first question is, will there be a management company looking after the first 9 houses?
To my knowledge, there will be no management company. The areas of open space, etc., will be, and the units obviously be in private ownership because that's what they're for. But the areas of open space will be controlled by Construct Reason. There won't be a management company.
That's fair enough. So the second thing is what about the attenuation pond? We've just heard from Mr Gowing that the attenuation pond in where he lives is not been taken over. It's in an awful state, in his opinion. Well, we're just going on what his opinion is, and I had a look at it and it isn't the best, to be fair. So who will be managing the attenuation pond? Will it be adopted? Because I've
got photographs of the current suds at Juniper Close, fairly recent, and it's pretty well maintained. Obviously, we've had a lot of dry weather and then a lot of wet weather, but photographs I've got, so it's in quite good condition. However, the attenuation basin will be maintained by Construct Reason because it's within that area of open space. And if it's owned by Construct Reason, then it will be offered as part of that public area, if you like, so we can guarantee more that the public can go into that area. And also, I'd like to make a note about I think it was mentioned about piling. I think on the first phase, I know I'm digressing, but on the first phase, the piling was done by an augured pile. So I'm very surprised to hear of windows popping out of the windmill done by augured piling. If it's flight driven, the vibrations can be disruptive, but augured piling generally doesn't cause that sort of damage. And there were people on site maintaining that as well.
I'll come on to that in a minute, but the third thing is the road. You've heard my comments from the last application, and as you're well aware, what is going to happen to the road? Are you going to have that adopted by a Section 38 agreement? Will it be, as Mr. Gowan said, possibly an S37 agreement? Or because 5 years ago, with the same developer, we find the road has not been anything done to it at all, other than how it was left, with the ironwork showing, which is absolutely, it is absolutely, I haven't got a word for it, it's wrong. It's wrong, shall we say that? So what's going to be the difference between the 28 houses that the road's not done, not brought up to adoption standard at all, or even been adopted, anything hasn't been done, to the 9 houses that you intend to do there? So what's going to happen to that, the road?
I could answer that. Sorry, your light's on.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that the remainder of the road will be done under a Section 37 agreement for the remaining 9 plots. My understanding as well is that the footpaths in Juniper Close have been brought up to adoptable standards, but the road hasn't. And the reason for that is, as we've discussed many a times, Chairman, is that the county will not allow the roads to be finished until the development is finished. Now, obviously, there's been several applications on this site over the last 3 or 4 years with the intention of extending the road further than it currently ends at the moment. And you know, while I have sympathy for the speaker who spoke before me, that's been going on for about the last 4 or 5 years in terms of applications. So until this is decided, and that once the road is put in for the 9 units, then the whole of that roadway will be done to adoptable standard and brought up. And also, I don't believe there's raised ironworks in the current Juniper Close. They're actually sitting at the base level, correct me if I'm wrong, and they will be lifted to the correct level when the top coat goes on. So unlike some sites where you do get raised ironworks and it's a problem for vehicles, at the moment I believe they sit at the same road level. And
they're actually not, in my opinion, they're raised. Obviously the top coat's not been put on, so, oh sorry. Yeah, so not in my opinion, they're not, they are raised and the top coat has not been put on. But I accept the explanation that you've given, but it doesn't give me any comfort for this 9 other houses when nothing's been done at all. There is obviously, as you're aware, there's no management company for the 28 either. So any future maintenance, if this application was successful, would fall on the residents, wouldn't it? If there's no management company.
no, it's been offered for adoption, Chair. So the nine.
Not on a S37. S38 is adoption, isn't it?
Yes.
38. It is.
So that the whole of that, from the 28 unit road and the 9 unit road, will be to adoptable standard and offered to the county for adoption. The footpaths are already to adoptable standard in Juniper Close.
Well, so with that, you heard my comments in the last application. Would you, if the application was successful, and you know, and I'm still open-minded on the situation, obviously, would you be prepared to, if it was successful, build the 9 bungalows, but only allow 6 to be occupied and 3 not until the road has been brought up to adoptable standard? Would, for the 28 already there and the proposed 9, so we're talking about all 37, if that was the case, if it was successful, and you'd sign an agreement to say that in front of us?
Like the previous speaker said in the previous application, if there's a condition worded, or because we haven't agreed any conditions obviously at the moment, if there was a condition put together like the previous application that gives the reassurance, I think it's tricky, again, like the previous speaker said, that to restrict it to 3, because the construction traffic is still going to need to go in, and the county won't adopt the road until the development's finished. I've got the developer with me. I don't know whether the developer can comment on whether.
No, what we're saying, basically, what I'm saying is, sorry to interject again, but no, we're saying is, obviously build your 9L if it was successful, but they weren't to be occupied. 3 weren't to be occupied. Yes, you can do what you want. You can have the painters and decorators in, and there'll be no more heavy traffic going over there. So it'll only be just vans, normal vehicles, not massive concrete lorries or wood lorries or anything like that. So it wouldn't affect that at all, would it? So that's...
On that basis, then, Chair, I don't see a particular problem with keeping 3 back from
occupation
until such time as the road is up to an agreed standard.
Okay, so we'll move. I'm hogging this, aren't I? Does anybody else want to come in before I? Okay, so so regarding the windmill, it's a Grade 2 listed building, we know, and to be honest, and to speak the honest truth, I was invited down by Miss Houghton, who's the speaker, and her late partner, to look at the damage done by the piling on that on the windmill. And I can only say she is absolutely correct. And my own feelings are that if the attenuation pond is in the same place as it's proposed, it could undermine the foundations of it. I do like old buildings, and because obviously I do like them, and I want to preserve them for future generations. But I don't feel comfortable with putting that windmill into jeopardy. If such times the 9 were piled, it would do irreparable damage to the windmill. Okay, so that's where my dilemma is. Those several things. So if you'd like to make any comments, if you can fathom out what I'm saying.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I totally understand where Ms Houghton's coming from, and if I can't confirm or not confirm whether that damage was caused by the piling, but all I know is that augured piling generally doesn't cause that sort of damage. Flight driven does, and it wasn't flight driven. In terms of the attenuation pond, yes, it'd have to be done sensitively. I'm in agreement with you. Grade 2 listed buildings should be kept and looked after. As an architect, you will need to preserve them. However, if a condition could be put together that asks for a schedule of works or something similar for the creation of that attenuation pond, that could be judged by officers to ensure that there's a protocol in making sure there's minimal or no damage done. Sorry, not minimal, no damage done to the Grade 2 listed building. I don't see piling being used to create the attenuation pond, but obviously there will be heavy machinery involved, I guess.
Okay. Which just brings me on to another point about the pathway. It was interesting to note that I think Mr. Sutton owns the roadway from Wood Street into the site. I'm getting some nods in the background, and it's interesting to note, although you've got the footpaths in there and saying, well, it'll be a shortcut into Wood Street, into the village, which obviously it will be. But it's interesting to note nobody said anything to Mr. Sutton, and he will not agree to it anyway. So that puts another obstacle in the way, doesn't it? Possibly.
Possibly, but those discussions can take place post the agreement of planning approval to ensure that whatever mechanisms you need or reassurance you need can take place. The gardens being given, extra gardens being given to Mr. Sutton. I can't comment any further than that, Chair.
we've been listening to Councillor Houghton, and I think she's been probably speaking to Mr. Sutton, and I think he's quite adamant, none of that. No one will be able to walk, cycle, or enjoy that pathway at all. So I think that's a no-no from him. I don't think for one iota, for a minute, that he'll change his mind. But we are where we are with that. So thank you, everybody. I'll let somebody else come in now, if they want to, of course. I'll take Councillor French, then Councillor Benny.
Yeah, could you answer some of the questions, or the main question with regard to Anglia Water, please?
I'll try. I mean, obviously we've had the drainage strategy done by experts, MTC, and Anglian Water haven't raised any objections with the scheme. In the conclusion in MTC's report, they have said that infiltration testing will be done once full planning approval is agreed. So infiltration will be tested, make sure the ground's suitable. If the worst case scenario is that the current drainage strategy is based upon zero infiltration taking place, in this case surface water will be discharged to the adjacent drain along the northern boundary, with discharge restricted to the rate of 2 litres a second during all events. And obviously the protocols will be done, the applications will be made to make sure that's all done properly.
Okay, Councillor Benny, thank you for waiting.
That's okay, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Lee. How far away is the windmill from the nearest build point on this development, please?
We have a distance from the windmill to the edge of plot 1. The corner of it, so not to habitable window, is 31.6 metres. It's probably about 32 and a half to the actual ground floor window of plot 1.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody? Sorry again. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as the architect, you haven't obviously inspected the windmill, but what would be your assessment of the standard of the windmill? Obviously, hasn't got a roof on it. All right, it hasn't got a dome on the top of it. Yeah, it's got a roof on it. Yeah, but is the building in fairly good structural state? Would you say, from what you've seen of it?
That's a bit unfair.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, Councillor Houghton mentioned it. There are expensive buildings to repair. I mean, I've only seen it from the site, and I would say it's in. Be careful what I say here. Average condition. I wouldn't say it's at risk. Obviously, we've got a lot of buildings in the Fens that are at risk. Grade 2 listed buildings are at risk. So I wouldn't say it's in that condition. But it needs somebody to spend money on it in order to bring it into use again, I would say. But that's obviously very costly to do, as Councillor Houghton said. But I would say it's in average condition.
Okay, anybody else got any more questions to ask? No. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings the end to the speakers. It's the officers' turn. Any questions, clarifications to officers? Councillor French and Councillor Benny, thank you.
Thank you. Can you tell me, because I can't remember, I'm getting old, what was the reason that it was refused the last time? Was it overdevelopment?
No, it was the same reason as this time round. So it's the impact on the setting of the Grade 2 listed windmill. So, I mean, the plan on the screen gives you an idea. So this is turned roundabout. So the top of the plan is south. So if we look in the bottom right-hand corner, that's an agricultural field. The advice from the conservation officer is, by developing this site, we're slowly eroding the agricultural fields that surround the windmill, which is a setting. By removing the agricultural fields, you start to erode the character of that setting, or the significance of that setting. So as with this application, the reason for refusal is heritage. It's the impact on the setting of the Grade 2 listed building. And for clarification, the reason for refusal isn't the impact on the building itself. It's not the impact on the windmill itself, it's the setting. So the conservation officer hasn't raised concerns with structural stability of the windmill or how it'll be affected by vibrations from piling. It's just purely the impact on the setting of the windmill, so how it's understood in its location.
Okay. Would you like to come back on that, Councillor French? No, you're happy. Councillor Benny, you were indicating.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah. We've heard an awful lot about roads today and drainage, but the only reason for refusal is the setting of the listed building. And truly, I don't see anything that we don't see every week in planning committee about the drainage, and if there were concerns about drainage or concerns about the road surface, which we do have our concerns, and I agree with you about holding 3 houses back in this case. But my question to officers is, there is nothing in the report that says there is a reason for refusal on any of the drainage or on the road surface that are not relevant to this in terms of planning matters. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes, that's correct. So in terms of highway impact, highways have commented they've got no objection to the scheme. The layout is considered to be acceptable. Parking is acceptable. There's sufficient car parking spaces for the dwellings. So there's no objection or reason for refusal on highways, grounds or access. And in terms of drainage, it's the same. We don't have any objections from the LFA. Drainage has been satisfactorily addressed. So there's no reason for refusal on drainage or flood risk. It's simply the heritage issue.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Anybody else got any more questions for officers? No? No burning desire, I see. No. So I'm going to ask members to debate the application. Who would like to kick that off? We're in debate. Make no mistake. And I'm a poet. Councillor French, thank you.
To be honest, I can't see anything to debate. We've asked the questions, we've heard the answers, or heard some of the answers. I think we just need to go for it.
Okay, that's fine. That's obviously your... Anybody else want to add to it? You'd like to, Councillor Purser. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have some major concerns really about the road going down there. Being very careful how I word this. I used to know somebody down there, but they're no longer with us. They passed away some time ago, so that's not a consideration. That, but with construction traffic going down there with tarmac lorries, concrete lorries, and other heavy lorries, I'm actually concerned with the actual access roads going down there, because the roads are actually quite narrow down there, and people parked on the side. And I have problems with that as interfering with the neighbours with those lorries and things. And I'm quite concerned about the heavy vehicles actually damaging the drains beneath as well. I think I know it's not a material consideration. I just basically find it a bit concerning. Okay.
That's a point. For me, Councillor Meakins made a relevant point on the last application, or the one bit previous to that, saying local members are not probably being taken notice of. And obviously, with that, going on from that, the parish council, if this goes ahead, are not being taken notice of. Just saying, really. Anything else to go in the debate? Councillor French?
Yeah, obviously the windmills there, it's been, I don't know, what was it, built in 1600 and something, or whenever it was built. It's a shame to see it deteriorate, and I can understand what Councillor Houghton has said. But I'm concerned if something isn't done about that, it's going to end up falling down, and then they can come back and get the planning application and no problem.
Maybe you have the answer. Who knows? But one hopes not. Anybody else at all? We're still in debate. No, not at all. Okay, thank you. closing debate now. Officers, have you got anything to say? You haven't?
No, no, Chair, nothing further.
Sorry, you have. Sorry, go on, Karen.
Just saying, Chair, nothing further.
Oh, nothing further. Okay, thank you. So, have a proposer to go with officer's recommendation to refuse planning permission. So, obviously, I'm looking for a proposer to go against officer recommendation, which I will do. So I'm looking for a seconder on that. Councillor Meakins. So can I have a show of hands on that proposal? After I've proposed it, Councillor Connor and Councillor Meakins have seconded it. Can I have a show of hands on that proposal, please? Thank you very much. That application has been refused. Thank you. This brings us to the end of the planning applications here this afternoon. We have got some confidential items, so I would respectfully ask members of the public and anybody else to leave. We will be having a 5-minute break so Councillor French can have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And so she'll be very happy, and we'll convene back again at 10 or 4:45. Thank you. 4:45.